James, can you turn your camera back on?
I'm going to turn it back on after I'm done eating.
Okay. Fair enough. There's Molly. Hey, Molly. Sound check. There you go. You're good. Okay. 1 minute warning. Just as a reminder, Council, we'll leave you unmuted unless we get heated. But if you would self-mute, that's really helpful so that we don't hear chewing and clinking and dogs barking and things of that nature in the background. All right. I assume Lori is ready. Yeah, without being able to hear Lori.
I'm ready.
Jeez.
Sorry. Did I scare you?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's good though. So if Lori's ready, Council, it's 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead, put the flag up for me, Grant, and we will call this meeting to order. As we do so with a salute to our flag. All want to join me?
Council Member James Blair.
Here.
Council Member Molly Carmody. Here. Council Member EJ Curry.
Here.
Council Member Ted Stillwell.
Here.
Council Member Tracy Wood.
Here.
Council Member Joe DePinto.
Here.
Council Member Terry Kaminsky.
Here.
Mayor J.W. Foster.
Here.
Thank you.
Very good. Could we approve the agenda for this evening, please?
I move we approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No special presentations this evening. We will now ask attendees if there's anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on an item that's not on the agenda. I see by the attendees that most of the people attending are part of the presentations later. But without seeing any raised hands, I think we're good for public participation. So tonight's consent agenda consists of the minutes from the May 26th and June 2nd meetings and the May 2020 financial report and vouchers. And we could approve that by consent.
I move we approve tonight's consent agenda.
Requires a second.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Any opposed? So I have to say, I'm liking the format of this Zoom. You've noticed that we've changed our platform. It makes it easier when we see all of the council up front. Now Lori's and I am able to see visually as well as audibly when council members are approving and seconding and things. So Lori, were you able to capture who did the motion in the second? Okay.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
Perfect. This is working out really well. Great. Okay. So now we have the new business, which is first and foremost to swear in the appointee EJ Curry to position 3. We have elected to do it the old-fashioned way of voice and repeat. So EJ, Do you prefer swear or affirm?
Either is fine.
We'll go with affirm then. So if EJ, if you will follow me, please. I state your name,
I, E.J. Curry,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
and the Constitution and the laws of the state of Washington,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
perform and discharge the duties
perform and discharge the duties
of the office of City of Yelm Council Member Position 3,
of the City of Yelm Council Member, Position 3,
according to law,
according to law,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Well, congratulations and welcome back. You're now a sworn-in member of the City Council again.
Thank you.
Deja vu. All right, and now on our new business, we have ordinance 1062, which is the water revenue refunding bond resolution. And I think we're gonna hear from Heidi first, is that right?
You're actually going to hear from Jim Nelson first.
All right. Well, I'm gonna unmute Jim Nelson and you're up, sir.
Thank you all. Great to see you. These are interesting times. Well, if you turn to my presentation and Grant, do you want to just go through it and I'll call out the pages? It's Grant back there.
Yeah, Jim, if you could share your screen, please, and just run it from yours.
Okay. See if I can figure that out.
There you go.
And now, do I have to upload it or have you already uploaded it?
It's running from your machine and we're just seeing your screen, so.
Okay, so I have to grab that.
There you go.
Sorry, let me. Can you see all my files?
Yeah.
All right. I'm still waiting for it to come up. Yeah, I think there might be usually the municipality uploads it. There might be a security block. Are you sure you can't upload it, Grant? Well, hold on. Yeah. Grant, any advice?
Oops.
Jim, I think we're looking for your presentation in the email that you sent to us earlier so that we could upload it. Is that what you're doing, Grant?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, I think, and see if we can see that. Let's see, which one is it here?
Oh, there we go. So, Mayor, if you don't mind just scrolling through and I'll call out the slides.
Okay.
We're on slide 2. Sorry on the interruption there. So you have a great opportunity before you. In October of 2019, I sat down with Michael Graham and Heidi McDonald, and we talked about the refinancing of the 2010 water revenue bonds. However, 2017, Congress eliminated what they call the Advanced Refunding Bond Act. And so the only way you could do it would be on a taxable basis, and you would achieve lower savings. So we suggested that, a little bit of a gamble or crystal ball. And we said, we think you should wait until the call date and potentially you can pick up more savings. So in October 2019, the estimated total savings were around 1.5 million. Today, you're looking at about 2.5 million. So your crystal ball was very good. If we turn to the next slide, on slide 3, you can see the far right corner where the red arrow is. You're pretty close to the historic low. As you all know, we've had quite a lot of volatility. It started right around March 11th. And for the next couple weeks, it was a tough time in the bond market with the spikes, and then rates came down and spiked back up. And so this is a good time now that you're approaching where not only are interest rates at a historic low, but the market is much more stable. If we turn to slide 4, you can see the hard numbers. Again, total net savings, $2,597,000. That's a net savings. So financing costs and everything are already deducted. The industry standard is to achieve a net present value savings percent of 5% or greater. If you're achieving 10% or greater, that's considered excellent. So you're hitting the ball out of the park with an estimated net present value savings percent over 20%. Right now it's estimated at 24.5%. And so you can see that the water system, after starting in 2021, would save, approximately $128,000 a year, which that helps your debt service coverage also. I guess, any questions on this slide? If you turn to slide 5, the city's current rating is A+. I think you have an excellent opportunity for an upgrade, possibly to AA-. And your economy is growing, the financials look strong for the water system. And so we will coach and prepare city staff for another rating presentation that would involve city staff like Michael Graham, Grant Beck, Heidi McDonald, Cody, the mayor. And anyway, we usually have a rehearsal call beforehand, put together a 30-page rating presentation, and then present that information to the rating analysts.
Jim, we have a question from Council Member DePindo.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Jim, for this presentation here. On the bond rating, have we been an A+ for a while, or could you go over the history of that just briefly?
Yes, you have been A+ for a while. And I think, with the growth in your economy, with improved financials in the bond world, when it's a utility revenue bond, they really focus in on a parity debt service coverage ratio. Your covenant is 1.25 times. They like to see 2 times or greater, and you're pretty close to that. Then we're working with Heidi on what's your total unrestricted cash. But I think especially your economic growth, it's much stronger than the last time you went to the rating analysts.
Could you let me know when the last time we were at A? What year or around?
At A+, I think it might have been 2014.
When we got upgraded?
Yeah, when you went from A to A+.
Okay, thank you.
And again, real quick, the key factors they focus on, looking at your economy, top 10 employers, top 10 ratepayers, assessed valuation growth, other proposed projects, looking at your debt. When it's a refinancing, you're saving money, so that's a credit positive. looking at the last 5 years of your financials, and then management factors as far as communication, how you forecast, how you budget, the condition of your audit reports. And then I recently sent Heidi a suggested financial management policy with some updates, and I'm happy to talk with staff and council more on that. But we have seen that an updated financial management policy in some cases can contribute toward a rating upgrade. And Michael Graham can personally speak to that when he was at the city of DuPont, and they received a rating upgrade from AA to AA plus. And one of the 3 key factors that was called out in the rating report was an updated financial management policy. If we turn to the next slide, you can see financial management policies and the high points. Again, a set of policies that promotes financial integrity, assists elected officials, provides continuity over time, having an unrestricted cash goal of say 50% or greater, monthly financial reports, financial forecast of 6 years or longer, and then regular updates to your policies as well as your financial management policy. Any questions on slide 6? And then going forward, after me, Cynthia Weed will talk about the bond ordinance, but you'll have a bond ordinance in front of you tonight. And then after that, we prepare a rating presentation. We have some target dates of a rehearsal conference call with staff on July 7th, the rating presentation with the Standard & Poor's analysts on July 9th, releasing the preliminary official statement and begin marketing the bonds to investors on July 10th, setting the final interest rates August 4th, and then closing the issue on September 8th. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Mayor. It seems like a slam dunk here. Is there any downside at all?
There really isn't. The only downside is that, the call date coming up is on December 1st, 2020. By issuing these bonds, these refunding bonds, they won't be callable, prepayable for another 10 years. But I think it's offset by the fact that you're getting such a low interest rate. And but I would say that's the only negative, and it's all subject to market conditions. All of a sudden, if rates, they'd have to really spike up to erode your savings. But if we really got into a volatile market, then we would recommend just to postpone the refinancing and wait until the market settles down.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Jim, I'm going to stop sharing your slideshow. Did Cynthia have a slideshow as well?
I don't believe so.
Good, because I don't have it.
Oh, okay.
All right, then Cynthia, I think, is up to next.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Good, thank you. For the record, I am Cynthia Weed, and I'm with the firm of K&L Gates. I actually have you on visual. You can't see me, but I can see you. And there's someone down below who's riding a really fast motorcycle by the looks of this.
That's a first. That is a first for Yelm City Council to have a council member participate by Harley.
I'm impressed. I'm just sitting here in Montana. I'm not doing anything quite that fantastic. For the record, again, Cynthia Weed, and our firm acts as the city's bond counsel, as we have for a number of years. We don't have a slide presentation because our presentation is nowhere near as exciting. I'm really here to deal with the agenda item that you have before you, which is Ordinance 1062. And this is your action item that essentially authorizes you to undertake the refunding, all that was described by Jim Nelson in his presentation earlier. It's a fairly long document. However, the document is essentially fairly standard in the sense that it's authorizing a new series of revenue bonds to replace the series of revenue bonds that we're refinancing. This ordinance includes all of the existing covenants that you have for your outstanding bonds. And that includes the rate covenant, which means that you have to generate annual revenue sufficient to meet that 125% rate covenant on an annual basis. And as Jim mentioned, you're meeting and exceeding that by a substantial margin, which means you're in a good position for increasing your rating on your bonds. There also is provision for a reserve account, and the reserve account is there just in case, and I guess we've seen it the last few months, some horrible occurrence happens or just catastrophe happens that stops revenues from coming in. So you have a rate covenant, you have a reserve requirement, and then you have operating covenants, which adds to the length of the bond resolution. But frankly, the real extensive part of the addition, part of the ordinance is the attachments at the end. When you issue these bonds, unfortunately, you're not going to be getting any new money for your projects. All of the proceeds will go to an escrow account and be held by U.S. Bank in escrow and held there until the call date, until we can actually call in your bonds for refinancing. So the city won't be getting any new money. All you're doing here is a refinancing similar to the way you would refinance your house. You exchange an old debt for a new debt. And the ordinance itself is a delegation ordinance that is, we're not fixing the final terms of the refunding bonds tonight. What we're doing tonight in this ordinance is authorizing the city administrator and the finance director to proceed with your bond underwriter, and that's DA Davidson, to schedule a bond sale date, and hopefully at the absolute lowest part of the market, and sell your bonds for an interest rate sufficient to achieve your savings target. Now, your savings target is on the note side. Your savings target typically is 4%, 5%. Here, you're going to achieve substantially higher than your savings target. And so with this overall delegation ordinance that stays in place, frankly, till the end of December, we expect that that's going to obviously occur much closer to the actual call date, so that you can immediately take as soon as it's legal, you can take those old bonds off the market and replace them with your new, much lower interest rate bonds. There are other requirements in here under federal tax law and under securities laws, and Heidi is going to be undertaking more responsibilities with respect to the new SEC requirements. I don't expect you're going to give her a raise for it, but she could make a pitch for that. And so because you're selling your bonds in the public market, there are requirements to file annual financial statements and other information on a regular basis. Again, this is the only action item needed in order to accomplish this refunding. Once it's all done, you'll be getting a report of how successful the sale occurred, and you will know as soon as that is closed that you now have much lower debt service with respect to your outstanding revenue bonds. As you might expect, I love talking about bonds much more than you might like to hear me talk about bonds. But if you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask.
I don't see any hands coming up from council, Cynthia, so I think you and Jim expressed this well. I know Heidi's been in contact with the finance committee, and everybody's on board with this excellent project, and really timely. And if you're looking for silver linings in the time of COVID, this is certainly that silver lining for the city of Yelm and our utility in particular. So thanks for your work on this.
And our pleasure.
Yes, thank you all.
It's been our pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you, as always.
We'll talk about that raise later, Heidi. Okay, that was the end of our, oh, no, it's not, because we have to actually vote on the ordinance. Heidi, did you want to come in and say anything else about this? Because otherwise, we'd look for an action item to approve signing ordinance number 1062.
Yeah, go ahead and approve it.
Go ahead, Heidi.
Go ahead and approve it.
Oh, sorry, I just muted you, Joe. Hold on. There you go. Councilmember DePino.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just curious to hear from the Finance Committee if they had any different perspective or if they discuss this in their Finance Committee meeting.
Councilmember Carmody.
Go over this one so much. We did talk about bonds in general, and Heidi did mention that this one was going to be coming up for refinancing. She said this was going to be a really good opportunity to do that because the rates are super duper low. So we didn't go over it in a lot of detail, but she did mention it, and so we're aware of this, and it sounds like a no-brainer to us too.
Okay, then someone could make a motion to approve ordinance 1062.
I'll move to approve ordinance 1062, Mr. James.
I'll second that, Tracy Wood.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, that was all 7. Thank you very much. We will look forward to that's really going to help inform future budgeting sessions when we're looking at that utility and what that means for the overall rates and so forth. So excellent timing. Okay, that brings us to old business, of which we have none. So we come to updates, and I am impressed by how rapt City Administrator Michael Graham has been throughout this meeting. He has hardly moved, but now he's ready to tell us everything he knows about, well, fishing in Alaska for one thing.
No, we don't have time for fish stories. Can everyone hear me okay? Perfect. I just want to give a couple of shout outs, and then I have a update that I'll send out to everyone. First of all, you guys may have seen the hanging baskets that have gone up in the community today. We just want to give a big shout out and appreciation to Jason's Greenhouse for generously donating those and to our public works employees that went out and hung those up. Not only do the baskets help beautify the community, which I know is important to all of you, especially you, Terry, but it makes it look great, and it really complements all the great work that our public works team is doing with our parks. Those facilities are just absolutely top notch, and it's awesome to see all the people out there enjoying those right now.
Okay.
Also wanted to give a shout out to another aspect of our public works team with the water reclamation facility. As you guys heard last month, they achieved for, I don't know, probably the second time ever, 0 violations. They did it again this month. So the second time that they've had 0 violations, 100% compliant with their state and federal permits. So it's a big win for us, especially considering that on June 19th, we just celebrated the 25th anniversary of that water reclamation facility. And many of it is being held together with bubble gum and Band-Aids, and we're implementing phase 2 and 3 to make the critical upgrades to that facility. So to achieve 100% compliance is a huge win, and those guys deserve our accolades and appreciation out there. The next thing I want to touch base on is the CARES Act. I know the General Government Committee is going to give an update, but just want everyone to know in the public that the funds are available through the Yelm Community Relief Fund, and we encourage people to apply, and the business grants are available, and we encourage people to apply for those, and I'll let Councilmember Stillwell give an update with more details there. Also, we have plenty of hand sanitizer. I think you guys said order 100 gallons. We picked up a 55-gallon drum. I think we've had 10 gallons. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cody Colt. We have 10 gallons used so far, and 12 businesses participating. So encourage everyone to call Councilmember DePino, call the mayor, call Cody, come out and get that hand sanitizer. We have plenty of it. The last thing I want to highlight for you all is, as you may know, we made a request to transition to phase 3, and we as a county are anticipating that feedback, that approval coming back very soon. We have some updates that I'll include in the written update, but we will hopefully get notification by the end of the week, and then we'll tee this up for what this means for us operationally, just for a discussion and information session for all of you at your next council study session. So more updates to come in writing, but those are the high points I wanted to hit. Any questions for me? Okay.
Look like
I
it.
got one for you. Sorry,
Okay.
I wouldn't unmute. Michael, as far as the phases, I know a lot of people, everyone asks about the splash pad. Is that, and I think it was responded, but I couldn't remember. Is that technically phase 3 or is that part of phase 4?
Phase
And if it's
4,
part of-
we received the official word from Thurston County Public Health and the Department of Ecology that would be a phase 4 approval, that we would get that. So we're waiting on bated breath for that phase to come through.
Now, is it possible that we could put through a specific request just for that, given the fact that JBLM has theirs open?
I'm not sure on that. I'd be glad to reach out to JBLM and see how they have theirs open, how they got permission for it. But as far as we've been told, it's a phase 4 item per Department of Health and Department of Ecology. But I'll reach out to JBLM and see what special circumstances they got. We're still limited, if we do open it up in phase 3, to 50 people, which, frankly, would be a pain in the butt to enforce. But I'm sure people would honor that. I'll follow up and get back to you.
Thank you.
Michael, I'm just going to butt in on a related note there. One of the more common questions was, why weren't the bathrooms open? As we know, during the first phase, we wanted those shut down because it was impossible for us to maintain the sanitation of them. And we used a porta potty company to provide that. That has probably left the park today, and we're back to full operation of our public bathrooms, and they're being, we have an accelerated maintenance schedule on them to try to maintain sanitation. But people need to understand that they are still encouraged to engage in proper hygiene etiquette and be very careful when they're using public facilities, because we can't sanitize them between each user. So be very careful about that. Joe?
Yep, good point. The other thing to add on is, if you see someone doing something inappropriate, the other reason we had to close these down was not only for sanitary reasons, but they kept getting vandalized over and over again. And it was a tiresome effort for our public safety guys to go out there and make costly repairs. So if we've installed cameras, but if you see someone out there that's doing something inappropriate in the bathrooms, give our police chief a call, give our public works director a call, give me a call. And we'll get on it right away. But we want to nip that behavior in the bud and keep those facilities open and accessible for everyone. Other questions?
Yeah, I'm assuming the mayor's saying I can speak here, but you're on mute. My question was for, I guess for you or the mayor. Regarding those porta potties, was that a charge that we incurred? That charge that we incurred, was that part of that reimbursement that the city operations that we authorized? Are we reimbursing through that?
Well, yes, it would be eligible, but remember the council, the decision that was made was to split those funds 50-50. So we have more than enough reasons to use up half of the funds that were allocated to us. So we'll have no problem spending it. But to answer your question, yes, that would be an eligible item that we could get reimbursement from for public safety and sanitation, public health.
Okay, any questions for Michael? And that That's the extent of your report, Michael?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Excellent. Councilmember Blair, what do you have for us tonight?
Had SWAC. It wasn't the actual meeting. It was the first dog. It was the first half of the retreat, and so we haven't heard back from the subcommittee that's regarding the flow control stuff yet. But it's a lot of information to try and take in. But I'm learning more about everything. Finance committee, we kind of already talked about that. We went over a lot of bond information, and obviously we just got done with the public safety committee meeting. I'll let council members Wood and Stillwell talk a little more about other stuff, but the big part that I wanted to touch on was I know it was brought, there's a lot of stuff going around about defunding police departments, and it's not really a route that I want to go, and I don't think it's a route that Yelm really needs. There could be larger cities that's good for them, but I don't think necessarily that's a route for us. We talked about the no-knock raids, which our Chief Stansel pointed out to RCW that within Washington, it's actually required by law for them to announce themselves before entering a residence, unless there's actually a life-threatening situation happening inside. So that was good to find out. We don't have to worry about those kind of situations happening. And then we talked about the chokehold that currently right now is suspended, that move due to the president's direction. And then we'll kind of wait and see what else comes down. But there was more being talked about. I'm sure the other council members will weigh in on that.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Carmody.
Hi. Okay, so at the intercity transit meeting, we voted to approve the 2020 PIP. The only change that we made was to that Route 42. It was a small deviation around the SPSCC campus. I have been attending some of the online webinars for the AWC annual conference, which was supposed to be held in, I believe it was Eastern Washington here, but it's all virtual now, and so we can just watch sort of at our leisure a lot of the sort of smaller courses. So I'm scheduled to sit in on 2 or 3 tomorrow, and then maybe I think 1 or 2 on Thursday. Today I watched Leading Through Crisis, and it was talking about establishing a framework for helping people get through things like the COVID thing, or through these political issues that were happening right now. And I also attended Growing a Green Economy and Dealing with Climate Change, which was helpful, but I'm not so sure that it applies to Yelm because it's hard for us to attract any industries with our limited I-5 access. So it was helpful, it was nice, and it was helpful, but I don't know if it would really work for Yelm. So that's what I did there. Finance committee, we had a really, really fantastic lesson with Heidi and the company that invests our bonds for us. So we have money in savings, and we transfer that money into investing in bonds. So what we did was we went over the definitions of the bonds and what they do and what the current status is. It was super helpful. I know that Terry asked a lot of questions. I asked a lot of questions. James did too. It was really informative, and I'd like to thank Heidi for really setting up a fantastic meeting. That was really good. In the Public Works Committee, we went over a really cool concept that Cody has come up with. It's called a bio dryer, and it works with drying all of our solid waste out, and that way we don't have to ship it off to Shelton. And because right now we're paying Shelton to deal with all of our solid waste, when we could get this bio dryer going. He costed it out and he said it would cost about, I think it was $2 million. But I'm not sure on that actual number. It was like $2 million if we bought it all at once, or 1.8 if we bought it all at once, or a little over 2 if we financed it. So, you know, if we paid cash, it would cost less. That was a really cool concept. And then he went over some rate models, gave us worst case scenarios, you know, sort of preferred case scenarios. It does not include any revenue that we could get from the bio dryer. So if we got the bio dryer, it might help to bring costs down for the renovation of the system. We talked about potentially putting in a dog park at the back of Longmire. We talked about Cochran Park getting closed for a total revamp starting in October. And I think that's about it. But yeah, that's about it.
Did you have a question for Molly about that? You had your hand up.
I did. I was curious if Cody had mentioned anything about any odor coming off of that through the bio drying process.
Any what?
Any odor?
No, he didn't really talk about it. It didn't come up. Let's put it that way.
It's funny. I asked that question today of Cody. Actually, it was a concern I had, and they have a meeting this week with the Department of Ecology that would go over the permit for that. And air quality assurance is one of the major elements of that. So it wouldn't be approved by DOE if it was to cause an odor that would be offensive to the neighbors or anything. So yeah, it is part of the plan.
No, very good. It sounds fantastic and something that we've kind of been looking for. So no, kudos. It's outstanding.
Really cool because ironically, you know how we just talked about, you know, refinancing the bonds, the outstanding debt bonds that we have now. Well, we actually also have a bond that some of our sewer money is invested in that's getting ready to mature, and it's roughly about $2 million worth. So if instead of reinvesting that money, we just go ahead and pay cash for this bio dryer, well, I mean, we could start right out of the gate and be saving ourselves money in the long run. It's a really cool concept, but I mean, obviously Cody and Heidi are going to have to go over the numbers and really crunch that data. But I mean, you know, who knows? It could really help. That's all I got.
All right, very good. Councilmember Curry.
Well, on June 10th, we had a board meeting at the senior center and we decided we would reopen the senior center. We set the date for the Senior Olympics, Summer Olympics, which will be July 17th, and a tentative second or third weekend in August date for the swap meet. It depends on which phase we get to by then. And then that night I covered Southeast Thurston Fire Authority for Councilman Wood, and the firefighters led the Rainier graduation parade, and they were very happy to do that. The bond committee is going to meet to decide if they're going to put it on the ballot for the November election for both the Lawrence Lake Station and the Rainier Station. And they reported that the medics and the ambulance people were diverting patients from Capital Medical Center to St. Peter's. So that kind of cut down one of the hospitals to take patients in. And that was their lack of funding due to the fact that property taxes first half were late, weren't due until June 1st. On June 11th, I was at the Public Works meeting with Molly and Joe, but I was there only by phone. I couldn't get in to see the charts. So the next morning I was over with Cody to see the charts. And like Molly said, the bio dryer is exciting and it looks like it could be a good revenue stream for us. On the 12th, I also met at the senior center with Sandy Hansen of the Rotary to set up the 10 weeks of summer food program. The Rotary is going to still provide during the COVID pandemic. And then at 2 o'clock that day, I met with Cindy Cecil at Yelm Community Services, and they are in the process of providing us with commodities of produce, dairy, and meats weekly for our seniors. The 15th, we had a AAA LMT meeting call with to talk about food services for senior centers and basic new requirements that we have to follow. Tuesday was our grand opening. The mayor was there. Councilman Wood came. We had approximately 30 to 35 people, and people are trickling back in slowly but surely. On Wednesday, the mayor and I met with the EMS group by Zoom, and there were lots of financial reports. There's lots of contract renewals. And I have a lot to catch up on that one because I'm kind of behind with that. This morning, Cairo came and interviewed the senior center, myself included. The mayor stopped by for that. At 12:30, I met with Councilman Stillwell and went over the applications for the business applications to be sent to finance. And then this afternoon, we had a senior center board meeting with Quad S over the resumption of meal service and new equipment to be installed in the kitchen. And that's it.
Pretty good for your first week on the job. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Stillwell.
Wow, welcome back, Councilwoman Curry. Holy smokes. It's a busy couple weeks. Last Friday, I attended the study meeting. And honestly, I'm really struggling with taking good notes on these Zoom calls that last 2.5 hours. It's really difficult. So there was a lot of great information from all the communities about what they're doing, the ranges of things that they're doing to help the citizens during this pandemic. There was just a plethora of information in it, but I really think that we as a city have, I mean, not just because we did it, but I think we really have done the best job in listening to all Tenino and Rainier. Everybody's doing good, but I really think that we really came together and did really good, and we got kudos from everybody for it. I was able to give a nice report on it. So other than that, I don't know. I have a little trouble focusing for that long on a computer, so I apologize. And then I attended the Public Safety Committee meeting this afternoon. I'm just going to hit some of the highlights. The 2020 vehicles we talked about last month that have been delayed for parts not being shipped during this, they should be done next week or in the next couple weeks at least. Our new officer is on his own, which is a crazy feat for him to be so quick and be out because of his experience that he came to us with. However, he's driving a jalopy Ford Expedition, much like myself. So we're hopefully getting those cars in pretty quick so that he can get another vehicle that's up to this current standard. Public Works is working on their emergency traffic plan, meaning they're going to take over intersections if we have another shutdown to help move traffic. They'll all be flaggers. We are rolling out Lexipol, which is a policy manual. We've talked about it before, that will standardize our policies to be sure we're meeting the national or the state rules and our procedures manual. We got a grant this year to pay for it. It's about $9,000, and we hope that we get that moving forward as well. Court's back in session. We have a metal detector. I know we talked about that over the last couple of years. It'll be functioning this Thursday when we have court going again. Sonia gave a great report on that. And they'll start taking debit and credit cards. So we're entering the 21st century now, not just taking checks or cash. So that's a good thing. And we had a really nice talk about not only what Councilmember Blair said, but the I-940 and how we've implemented that as a city. And I know that the chief has put out a lot of great information, but I just am really proud that we have instituted these things way ahead of time. So these was passed for de-escalation, mental health, crisis intervention, just a huge amount of things that our police officers are doing, getting ahead of this, knowing that we'll have more changes coming and that they're working really hard on this. So we have to give them kudos that we're ahead of this curve and will continue to be so. We all know that, but I think we need to do a better job sometimes talking about it. So going forward, I'm sure that there'll be lots of changes and well-needed changes, but just know that they're working really hard on it, and the chief and the assistant chief and all the officers, sergeants, and what have you. Anyhow, to the business grants, we met the General Governance Committee. We had 12 submitted last Friday, 12 requests, 9 moved forward, and then there's 3 that we need to meet about and talk. For example, they need to have a valid current business. Go ahead, Joe. Did you have a question?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, Ted, or Councilmember Stowell. I was just curious, why is that going to the General Government Committee instead of the Finance Committee, those applications and processes?
Well, I don't know. So what we're doing, I'll tell you the process, and then it may make a little more sense. So it's coming to us, I believe, because we set this up the way it was brought to us. And then we just review these for information. We send them to the finance department. They check all of the information like business licenses, if they're a city business, and then it goes to get the checks issued. So trying to streamline this. I don't have an answer for you. That's probably above my pay grade. So we're just trying to process these as fast as we can. So 12 came in and they were emailed for that clarification for the finance department. 9 moved forward. As I said, 3 of them, they're looking at some other information. It wasn't clear. There's some challenges with my own personal business license, which I do have. With renewing it last year, I missed it because you have to go to Department of Revenue and actually look for it, and I didn't personally. So there's some things that I think were just overlooked, and there's no malintent. So great businesses, really good information. Today, I received 9 more that we reviewed, and those will be going forward as well. And there's something that I do want to talk about if there's no questions about that. So we received a couple of nonprofits requests for the grant money for nonprofits. And without getting into specific of who they are, we probably need to have a discussion, if not now, perhaps at a study session. I don't want to hold off on it. I think we owe everybody the rapid response. So this was originally passed to help businesses, but I think these 2 came in. I was surprised, but it does make sense that some of these nonprofits serve our community and serve our businesses, for example, or they're actually a kind of a business, but they're a nonprofit. So I would love to hear from everybody on your feelings and how to move forward with that.
I think nonprofits should be included.
Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Mayor. I see where you're, Councilmember Stoll, I see where you're coming from on that. I think the city granted, there was a question asked on Facebook whether or not nonprofits, and the city said yes, that nonprofits were included on that. I personally thought it was the businesses, and I know there's a difference between nonprofit and for-profit businesses and organizations. It was my thought that we had passed for businesses and not nonprofits. If that's what the council chooses to do, that we would want to go and extend that to nonprofits, I'm open for that and down for it, but I don't believe that's what we passed.
I somehow can't seem to unmute you, Tad. If you wanted to respond to that, you'll have to unmute yourself. There you go.
There we go. It was passed as a business grant, but I can see the definite benefit to letting these apply as businesses just because they don't actually make a profit. I don't think that should preclude them from taking part in this. I'm not familiar with how the structure is with their financing. A business is pretty simple, straightforward, but I was kind of talking to Councilmember Curry about it today as well when we were reviewing these again. and I could see like, and Habitat for Humanity just comes into mind. They did not apply, but that's somebody that fulfills a niche, right? So they're a nonprofit, but they were closed down. So if they were to apply, is that something we need to consider? It's a business, it's a storefront, people work there. So I just didn't know. So I have them, I held them, we talked about them, and I think there's validity in offering the grants. I don't feel like I have the authority without talking to everybody.
Let's go with Councilmember Wood, then Councilmember Carmody, please.
I'm just looking for a little clarification. I thought that a nonprofit was in fact a business. It's a nonprofit business. It's still a business, as there was a nice example Councilmember Stillwell used with the Habitat for Humanity. It's still a business. It just seems like they still have to pay a mortgage, and they still have to pay a power bill and a water bill and a sewer bill and all these other bills, even though they weren't bringing in any revenue in order to cover those costs, which is in fact, I believe, the definition of a nonprofit, making just enough to cover their costs. That's my 2 cents.
Unfortunately, there might be for-profit businesses that are also nonprofit right now, but not by choice. Molly, go ahead. And then Councilmember Blair had his hand up.
Yeah, I agree with Councilmembers Blair and Wood. I think that it's a business is a business, and those people are still getting paid either salaries or whatever, even if they're on unemployment. And those businesses they still have to pay mortgages. They still have to pay insurance, even if they don't have a mortgage, or rent, or they got to keep the lights on. I think it's absolutely fair that we should consider these guys. And I'm not sure about the technicality of this. Do we have to vote on this, or can we all just kind of say, no, they should be included?
You can just decide, as you have before, by consensus, on how you'd like the General Government Committee to vet these applications.
Okay.
Councilmember Blair?
Real quick for Tad, I know this is not about the grant right now, but I forgot to mention it in my part. How is the General Government Committee doing on the procurement policy? I know that's been kind of floating around with you guys since like last January, at least January. Cody was working on it when he was there. So just kind of wondering how that's going.
Before you answer that, General Government Committee, let's stay on topic. And Councilmember Blair, if you had a question on the grants, please.
Oh, yeah. Sorry for speaking out of turn earlier. But yeah, basically, I don't see why they would be excluded. Especially most of them, if they're not like a business front like Habitat for Humanity, they're entities that provide a pretty good service. And if anything, the nonprofits that I can think of in my head were affected even worse than some of the businesses have been, in the fact that their entire process of bringing in revenue for themselves was completely shut down for 3 months. I couldn't see any reason to say they wouldn't be included.
At this point, having heard various opinions, I could see that we have consensus of a majority. If somebody still has a problem with the grant, including nonprofits, let us know now. Otherwise, I think the General Government Committee has heard what they needed to hear. Go ahead, Councilmember DePino.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. And no, I'm fine with that. Would this also apply to churches then as well? If they have nonprofit status?
Well, I don't want to speak for the General Government Committee, but they just don't. That's not a business that's trying to like Habitat for Humanity is a great example. I don't think a church would fall into the same thing, but people need to apply if they think they meet the criteria, and then the General Government Committee can vet that application and come back to council for more guidance if they need it.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. Thank you.
All right. Well, before we move on, Terry, is this still on this topic?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
I was gonna say, if the businesses aren't applying and there's still monies in reserve, then there's no reason to not let the nonprofits apply. So I don't know if you can grade them in accordance of business first, but certainly if there's monies left over, sure.
Okay. Councilmember Carmody, did you want to finish your other question for the General Government Committee?
No, it was just a follow-up question for the procurement policy, seeing where we are on that.
Okay. Tad, did you want to continue your report?
Actually, just to answer that really quick, that is being referred back to Public Works because the majority of our committee will be dealt with there. So that should be coming next, I think the next meeting. So yeah, that got pushed. You're right. It's been a year and a half, I think, is when we looked at it. So you are 100% correct there. So it's going to Public Works, and then we should be able to coordinate and get that taken care of because we've talked about that as well. Stuff, we just keep our list. It keeps growing, just like everybody's. Anyhow, any other questions about the business grants really quick, and I'm done.
All right. Thank you, Ted. Councilmember Wood.
I attempted to attend the Transportation Policy Board meeting. It got hacked, and there was some unfortunate comments and things being made. So Mark Daly, our director, just shut down the meeting. I believe they were able to get it going again later on, but unfortunately I wasn't able to attend. And then this afternoon's public safety meeting, my fellow council members did a pretty good job covering it. One thing I wanted the community to know is on the 14th of July, we will be back to processing passports on a appointment basis. And that's my report.
All right, thank you. Councilmember DePino.
Thank you, Mayor. I also attend the Public Works Committee. I think Councilmember. The only other thing I'd say on that one was the bio dryer. I think it's a great idea. We do need to know about air quality. That was a good question by Councilmember Wood. This was something we brought up years ago, and at the time the council didn't seem to pursue it. So I'm glad that the new Public Works Director is pursuing that now. So that's really great. Today, as Councilmember Carmody talked about, was the kickoff for the AWC annual conference. And I joined that first meeting, which was more of a networking thing. And some of the things that were discussed was how they communicate to their constituents through this COVID-19 crisis. And a lot of them, which the breakout group that I was part of was Mercer Island, Bellingham, DuPont, SeaTac, and Bellevue. And mainly we all talked about how social media has been a crucial element to this in communicating not only the official city, but the actual council members itself too. And just different other not networking, different ways to communicate on social media, not just on Facebook, but like Twitter and some of the other platforms. So that was really, really interesting. And I hope that the rest of the council can join for some of those meetings. They're all online, or yeah, they're all online, and some of them are already pre-recorded, so you can do it at your convenience. Been helping out with the hand sanitizer, getting businesses to fill up and utilize that program. And, you know, I think Michael Graham said that was a low number. I think he said like 10 or 13 businesses, but I think that's a good number starting off with the first week or so, or 2 weeks that we started this program. A lot of the businesses that I've been going into, I've been trying to inform them of that we have a program like that. And they were really shocked that they weren't notified or anything. They weren't told. So I was hoping that maybe the executive branch could reach out to the Chamber of Commerce and get that information out to their members. So a lot of their members didn't have any idea when I walked in and chatted with them. I don't know
clarify that for me, Joe. The businesses you talked to said the chamber hadn't reached out to them, or the chamber said that we hadn't reached out to them about the grant program?
Neither. When I asked them, they didn't know about the program. So the businesses that were chamber members did not know about the hand sanitizer program. So I was just wondering if you could reach out to the chamber to push it out towards their members if they haven't already. Perhaps these members, I talked to 4 of the businesses, and then there were members, and they didn't seem to have any idea about it. So that was just, okay. Hopefully we can utilize the program, because the ones that did know about it, they're like, yeah, let's get it. Let's do it. And also the grant program too. They didn't know about the grant program. So I was helping them to fill that out and where to go with the link and all that stuff.
Well, I appreciate that. We have pushed it out 3 times on social media. The NVN's done a story on it. Thurston Talk's done a story on it. The Chamber has pushed it out through their platform and has communicated with their members. So I'm not sure I'm understanding what the confusion was, but certainly we could all do better since we've only been able to get 10 gallons distributed to help people take advantage of that and the grant program and the program through Together as well. We've got the money. We need people to be able to use it to pay their bills.
Yeah. So an example would be like more direct communication, like put it in their water bill or put it in, have outreach to them directly, maybe a phone call directly to the businesses, just something like that. But I know you guys are doing well with the social media and pushing that out on that, and SFI and all that and other council members. So the other thing was I'd like to have some clarification regarding the face mask requirements. I know it's a brand new policy that the governor just came out with today, but I was wondering if the city of Yelm plans to enforce that or not.
Did you listen to the entire presentation by the governor today?
Yes.
Because he gave some pretty clear guidance on that. Governor Inslee understands that local municipalities like ours are not going to be able to enforce that. He's really relying on the citizens of our community to help one another through this, as they did with the social distancing and the hygiene etiquette that we practiced well enough as a community to stay so safe that it would appear that we don't have much of the virus in our community. Yet, as the state opens up and people do more travel and they bring their viruses with them, the risk to our community increases as well. So the governor's order to statewide mask, facial coverings is incredibly important to the continued safety of our community. And he hopes that people will help each other wear the face coverings through peer pressure, if you will. And he's particularly leaning on the businesses to enforce mask wearing, not only with their employees, but with their customers, as Costco did and a number of others. So that's the guidance that we're going to work off, Joe. And we're not going to, we don't have the capacity in our law enforcement group to be an enforcement arm of the state government, but we really do think it's important for everybody to encourage other people to use the face coverings as mandated by the governor. And that's where we stand on that for right now.
Thank you. I just wanted clarification. Of course, I watched it, but there's a lot of people that are viewing that haven't. And while I might know it, the question, not just myself and other council members and yourself do, we raise these questions so that others would know about it. We might know the answers ourselves, but a lot of people in the public might not. And so that's why I raised the question. So no disrespect to you, Mayor, on that. So I didn't want to, ruffle any feathers or anything.
Didn't ruffle feathers at all, Joe. You could have stated the same thing that I heard and it could have been your report.
I just wanted a direct response from the executive branch. That's all I was doing. Okay. And so lastly, I was hoping that with newly appointed EJ Curry on council, I was hoping we can maybe do our council retreat, trying to get on board with everybody. I've talked to a few of the council members regarding a possible retreat on August 15th. It's a couple months out. It would give us some time to kind of plan for this. I would like to see us do it at Ocean Shores. The biggest reason for me is I would like to do an overnight event or an overnight retreat, just so we could get on the same page on a lot of team building and get back as a whole on council. I think we've kind of drifted apart since the last a year or so, when we've kind of really had some really good discussions, council, and I think for whatever reasons that we are, and I think we need to get stronger as a council. And I was hoping that August 15th, you could look on that and we could do some team building exercises. We could do some AWC programs that are available online, and we could all do it safely to social distancing, face mask wearing if we need to, and all that. But I really do think that's important for us to get on the same page as a council. And that's my report.
All right. Councilmember Kaminsky, you're always last, but we're always waiting to hear what you have to say.
As for the retreat, I think I'm on my 3rd year and we've talked about it every year. So I hope we get to do one before I leave. With Molly and James, I did attend the finance committee, and yes, we did have, thank you, Heidi, an excellent education on bonds. It was very informative. I enjoyed it very, very much. And I'm with Council Tad on this one. I had all my notes for the Nisqually River Council meeting I attended, and of course, they're not with me, so I don't have names written down. But JW, since you were there, I'm sure you know the names of the people that spoke. But it was very cool. We had at least 50 members attend, and the gentleman that was the storyteller, which I can't remember his name, he was very cool, and we all just sat back and we heard a great story about the mountain and the historic sites and the Indians and just the whole cultural heritage. It was just lovely. Everybody just totally enjoyed it. So hopefully you'll get to his name when you get to your report, but thank you for attending. And then Joan Kane talked about his replacement and the acquisition of the 174-acre parcel that borders a mile on the river near Wilcox. So he gave us some financial updates on that acquisition. And then as for my beautification project, my God, real estate's been so crazy. I have really done nothing. I hate to say this, but I do travel from my home to my office every day along the downtown corridor, and I look very specifically what would make this tiny strip of street look better. So I reached out to Cody, who informed me the plants were already up, but they're so small I didn't see them, so I had to complain about that again, but they are there and I know they will grow. And then I'm thinking about benches where people can collect and sit. And then as I drive, I see that there's parking that you wouldn't even see people sitting on a bench because of all the cars parked there. But finding a nice sturdy city bench is still on my list of things to do. And just all the other ways. So if anybody has any creative ideas, please let me know. It's a work in progress and it's not going very fast. That's my report.
Well, thank you. Oh, go ahead, Councilmember DePino.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Kaminsky, regarding your beautification for the downtown area, you know, some of those businesses I was chatting with, I brought you up and how that's of huge importance to you. And so I think we should connect offline, but some of those businesses do want to work with you trying to do some beautification. So thought you'd appreciate that.
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate that very much. Thanks.
Thank you. The man's name was Jeff Anatolis Lapp, who is the archaeologist who gave us the talk. And that's exactly why I attended that meeting. In addition to you representing Yelm, appreciate you being there. But that was a really interesting presentation that he made about the history of Mount Rainier and its peoples. In fact, he's just written the book, Mount Tahoma and her peoples, I think, or its peoples, something like that. Fascinating topic. So thank you for that. James, first off, I want to give you the award for the most movement during a council meeting, first by motorcycle, and then thank you for showing off that belt buckle earlier. That was beautiful. And now now you're watering your lawn. You're making me kind of seasick over here, dude. Slow down. But thank you, everybody, for your reports and your work tonight. As with council members Carmody and DePinto, as much as possible, I'm going to try to engage in the AWC conference this week. I'm just glad we didn't have to drive to Kennewick to attend that. And the presentations that they put together are still going to be great. In addition to that, we have the AWC business meeting that both of those council members and myself will be voting members at. With some changes to the bylaws expected that should be beneficial to all 100 communities that RMSA represents. And also we have an RMSA board meeting tomorrow. So there's quite a bit of activity planned for this week in the virtual world of Zoom. I was happy to see that our senior center was able to open. They were very nervous about this because as everybody understands, the emotional health of our seniors is as important as their physical health, and they're both interrelated, and yet they're at a higher risk of vulnerability to contracting diseases from social contact. So it was a real balance, and I congratulate Jeannie James and the board over there at the Senior Center for creating a safe environment for our seniors to come back into for that such important social contact. Enough was covered on the grants, but again, we have more money in there than we have demand right now in the business grants. And we did have a nice infusion of money into the Yelm Community Relief Fund that Together is administering for us. And they've given out something like $20,000, $22,000 already in a variety of grants. So they're rocking it over there. And we just really need people who can't pay their bills to apply, because we're at about 450 utility bills that are behind in their payments right now because of a variety of reasons. We need to encourage those citizens to use their money to pay their local utility and other bills so that we keep this economy circular and intact. The question was asked. Yeah, go ahead, Molly.
Did you say 450?
Are behind on their utility payments, yeah.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah,
okay.
It is a lot. But, you know, we did, you know, we told them we wouldn't turn off their water. And so a lot of people didn't pay. But they know that they have to pay eventually. If they can get the funds to do so, they will, I'm sure. Or if at some point they need to, they can enter into the contracts that the council members authorized to pay it off over time. So it's just going to be a delay, as were the property taxes and the B&O taxes as part of this. But hopefully it will all roll in eventually. The splash pad was asked and answered, I believe, on how we're going to wait for the health department to give us the go ahead on that. They was very specific about water parks not being in phase 3, but in phase 4. But again, Michael's going to follow up with JBLM to see how they got a special dispensation for theirs. And the question was asked and answered about face coverings. So we have an internal policy that we've had all along. You're going to see our City of Yelm employees wearing masks when they're working in their work environment, whether that's in a truck going out to mow lawns or in a cubicle where they have another employee working with them on something. So we're working our way through those, but we intend to open up City Hall to public shortly after phase 3 is authorized by the governor. And we have the last of our safety mechanisms going in place on Friday, we believe, so that our customer service team will feel comfortable and safe, just like they do over at the court, where we have those protections in place. Just a reminder that the bio-dry is a great idea that was already involved in phase 3 of our wastewater treatment facility rehabilitation plan. Cody was able to see how he could financially move that up into this phase, which again is going to have positive repercussions going forward if we get that project in. So again, good marks for Cody. Yes, Councilmember DePino.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just wondering, I know there's a lot of folks from the city employees that are telecommuting currently. Is that fairly accurate to say?
Well, we call it working from home or telecommuting or virtual working. Yes, we do.
Yeah. Yeah, I said telecommuting. So I was wondering if you would like to continue that policy, or if you had any thoughts on continuing that policy for some after the crisis is ended for us.
Yeah, so a good question that the management team has been working with. We've had a couple of months now to see how this would work, and we're really happy that our IT crew was able to outfit all of our remote workers with the right hardware and software for them to do their jobs perfectly, not just adequately, but perfectly, including, you know, some of our guys, like the project managers, have to go out to sites, and they can't help but that. Early on, they were even doing some of their site visits remotely by camera. Now, everything that our team is able to do remotely, we're going to have them continue to do remotely until we get further down the road in where people can come together more safely. So it's been working out really well. It's a hybrid of, we do have to have people in the office for certain things, but a lot of our folks are going to be working remotely for the foreseeable future.
Thank you, Mayor. And I was just wondering, like, after all this is over, when we don't have to, I was wondering if perhaps that would be something that could be looked at as policy, as maybe like a day or two of telecommuting for different various reasons.
Absolutely, we're looking at that. Yep. Okay, and that is all that I have. So unless there's a good of the order,
Move to adjourn.
looks like a chorus. All right, well, thank you, staff, for your support. This is a really good meeting, and we'll see you all at the study session coming up.
Hey, JW, real quick.
Yeah, James.
Regarding the sanitizer that we bought, if we could, in the communications about it, specify that it's not just hand sanitizer. They can put that in spray bottles and use it for sanitizing surfaces, all kinds of things. So it's not just hand sanitizer. It's just a liquid alcohol
With glycerin. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, yeah, we'll make sure people understand that. Good point. Thanks, James. All right, everybody. Have a